Hey my friends, this is Oliver Joyce from Whiskey Barrel Studios, and this video today is really for the game dev crowd among you. I know a lot of game devs follow me. You know what's going on. This is what's going on. Last week, Unity set themselves on fire, shot themselves in the foot, pushed themselves over a cliff, whatever metaphor you want to use. Unity is in trouble. You know what it is. They made an announcement about charging people per install of a game. Everything you download, you pay 20 cents an install. It's messy, and I'm sure you know what it's all about. And so it's been covered ad infinitum over the last few days, but probably no one's covered it better than my good mate John Stayscale. Now, if you're a game dev or interested in the game dev industry, do yourself a favor and subscribe to Lost Relic Games, which is John's channel. Some of the best insights in the business and some of the greatest game dev insights as well. Look at John's face. You can tell straight away he's not happy. And let's take a quick look at what he had to say 4 days ago when this all blew up.
So I woke up to some very disconcerting news this morning. Our beloved game engine and company, Unity, has made some transgressions, to put it lightly. And the game dev community right now is furious. Now,
Do not make John Wick angry.
So now, game developers using Unity to build games, they will be charged 20 cents per install of your game. Now, there are some different tiers and thresholds, but fundamentally 20 cents as the base offering. And this is the tier that's going to affect indies the most. And in many ways, it gets much worse.
And as John said, that really was just the tip of the iceberg, because Unity also cut their plus plan. You either have a free plan or the $2,000 a year pro plan per seat. So if you've got a bunch of developers, you are paying a lot now for Unity, or you have to keep the Unity splash screen and pay that high fee. It's always online. The terms of service were retroactive, meaning that I make a game a few years ago and it makes $500,000, 500,000 sales or whatever. I'm on the hook for 20 cents per install. Okay. And a lot of these mobile games that are free and have, a lot of installs, they're on the hook for this. And they changed the terms and service about this. They deleted their GitHub repository with the T&Cs, and so you couldn't even reference it and then replace it with this. There are some shady things going on. And John continues in the next video just yesterday, and things have really blown up.
All hell has broken loose. So let me get you up to speed with a timeline of the key things that have happened. September 12th, Unity made their initial announcement, changing the whole business model effectively. Chaos ensued immediately. September 13th and 14th, Unity followed up with some clarification posts, which were intended to put out the flames, but actually ended up stoking the fire even further, because it basically clarified what people's worst suspicions were about the initial announcement. Things got much, much worse. An army of some of the biggest and most well-known game developers in the scene have come together in rebellion and protest of these changes. Many took to Twitter and social media with public statements voicing their opposition to these changes, cancelling future Unity projects, cancelling partnerships, and many even boycotting the platform outright.
Thanks, John, for letting me leech off your content for a couple of minutes. I owe you a beer, buddy. Thank you, mate. Yeah, things did get worse. And as he goes on to say, people like Megacrit, who made Slay the Spire, Kenny, who does all those free game assets and everything, they're pulling the plug. They said, I've had enough. I'm not doing any more tutorials. I'm not creating any assets. I've lost faith in the engine. And, a lot of people have. They're all, this is not a small thing. This is a movement. These things, start small, but, they become big. And my entire game dev feed on Twitter, X go and give it to you, Reddit, everything, it's all focused on what has gone on and what do I do now as a game developer. Now, I'm no stranger to this, because I remember this happened to me back in, about 2012 or so. This happened to Adobe Flash when Steve Jobs the tech villain. I'm not a fan. I wasn't a fan. Yeah. Came out and basically spread a bunch of lies about Flash and then said, you know what, it's not going to run on Apple phones. And within 6 months, the bottom fell out of the industry because every ad from everything was made in Flash. And every ad industry that was, pouring money into Flash development and so on just dried up. And as a byproduct of that, I was a game developer using Flash. All the work for me dried up, and all the portals that were supporting Flash started to be turned off, and Flash was no longer supported in browsers and everything. So very quickly, I became from hero to zero, from a developer in high demand to a developer with no demand. And I struggled in the wilderness for years after this. So my entire career was really, really hit for six after that happened to Flash. So I know what a lot of you Unity guys are going through right now because I've been there before. And it's a horrible feeling, right? It's the sinking feeling of like all that time I've invested in this and the company has betrayed me and let me down. And, first it was Apple and then Adobe completely screwed the pooch. They did everything wrong and then just buried Flash. The worst thing that ever happened was Adobe buying Flash from Macromedia. And the worst thing that happened to Unity was them acquiring IronSource, who is an adware, a spyware company, basically. Any Unity installs you have now have the spyware in them. And they're going to be unleashing that in future editions that, you have to be always online to play, to use Unity. They're going to be pinging back to this unknown server what your data is doing and playing the game, tracking installs, and God knows what else. It might seem like a small thing to say, well, it's only 20 cents per install once you reach a certain threshold, which most indie games won't reach. But that is a big threshold, sure. But it's also a gateway. Who's to say they won't change it again? And then say every time you load up Unity, you're going to charge you 5 cents. You don't know this. This is a private company. They're only beholden to their stock, their shareholders. Their CEO, John Riccitiello, was voted the worst CEO a couple of years running for EA. And he's left a bunch of companies in his wake. And he was in a Unity hire. And you watch their share prices just tanked. Oh, man, Unity, yeah, this is dark times for Unity. I'm not joking. I don't know when Riccitiello took over, but you look at 2021 to now, that they're losing money hand over fist. Unity is hemorrhaging money, and that's why they've gone and made these ill-advised changes without consulting anyone. Yeah, here's Blood and Mead on Steam. Please give it a wish list. John spent a lot of time working on this game. Years, in fact, a number of years, and it's getting better and better. But he's dedicated all that time in Unity. This is a Unity game, and he's now very disillusioned with Unity. But he's got to keep on, working in Unity with the sort of the uncertainty of where does the future of this engine lie? How much more do I want to put into it? It's way too late for John to make a change now. It's way too late for him to switch over to a different game engine. You can just say, switch over to, Unreal or Godot or whatever. You can't do it. By the way, this game, I played it about a year ago and it was good then, but this is just looking epic now. And John's not alone here. Many, many game devs are in that same predicament. A lot of people are saying, well, I'm going to wrap up my current Unity project and then start fresh in Godot or Unreal. They're your two main options. There are others that people have mentioned, but Unreal and Godot are the two most viable options right now. The guy who's making Daggerfall in Unity, basically the Elder Scrolls, he's been remaking it in Unity. He's gone, you know what? Maybe I'm going to remake this in Godot. A lot of people are, making the switch. Now, this video has been a bit of a rant, but there is hope. And I want to just talk about this for a second. There may be a light at the end of the tunnel in Unity. Maybe they'll walk things back. Maybe things will be okay. You probably will never trust them again. But even if you don't, for your own project, you'll probably be okay. And it's worth persisting with. Do the best you can. It's still a hugely competent and capable engine. Many of your favorite games, from Pillars of Eternity to Hollow Knight to Blood and Mead, are made in Unity. Spartacus, Swords and Sandals Spartacus, was made in Unity. People have asked me, does this affect me? And I say no, because I made one game in Unity. It didn't do very well. Don't even bother looking it up. It was the worst performing game of my career. Nothing to do with Unity, but it was, I just didn't know what I was doing and made a lot of mistakes. That's a story for another video. I've had many more successful games than that one. But after my unpleasant experience, I didn't really like working with Unity. Just me personally, I found it quite bloated and I just couldn't get my head around it. I switched to Godot nearly 3 years ago, and about January of 2021. Gosh, I can't even remember now. But yeah, nearly 3 years ago, and I have not looked back. I am a humble game developer making pretty humble games, but Godot just suited me perfectly. Now, you might be a Unity refugee yourself thinking, where am I going to go next? Check out all the Reddit game dev threads and everything. There is a ton of advice out there, and make your own call. Don't be too hasty to jump ship if you're really don't want to make the switch. And a lot of people, there's a lot of reactionary calls right now. But if you do want to make the switch, as I said, Unreal and Godot are your two main choices. Unreal is it literally is an Unreal looking engine for AAA teams, for highly beautiful hi-fi looking games. One caveat with Unreal is they're also a private company. Epic is a nicer kind of company, if there is such a thing. Tim Sweeney seems like a great guy, and so far Unreal have done a lot of good things, but they also are a private company. You never know that they might change their T's and C's and so on. This video today is about Godot. If you want to switch to Godot, let me show you a few things about Godot. Come join me. Look, let me quickly show you Godot. I've got the version manager there. We'll load 3.52 up, which is the stable version. We go new game. I just made this file folder here. That version manager is a custom little plugin. It's loaded. How quick was that? Am I convincing you yet? There we go, 3D. Got a little sky there and everything. You can import all sorts of 3D models, Blender, FBX, whatever it is you like. Really good Blender support, actually. There's a 2D window there. There's your script thing there. You can use Visual Studio if you want. Doesn't really matter. The built-in one is fine. A little bit small window, but there's also an asset library as well. So you can download these assets straight into Godot. These are all free at the moment, but there is plans for a paid asset store. I'm not sure I really like that idea, but let's say, for example, we wanted to have, what's this, dice syntax for Godot. Grab that one. Functions for supporting a dice rolling syntax. Oh yeah, for D&D. Download that. Down the bottom there, it installs it into the game and added. And then you go down here in your file system now. You have maybe move that. There we go. An add-on for dice syntax, and you can see all the dice helpers and so on. Godot supports C# if you want it. Also supports GDScript, and I really recommend GDScript. I wasn't kind of certain at the beginning, but this is it. This is Godot. You got your inspector window over here, and your scene window, and your file system. You can move all these docs around if you want. Let me just quickly show you something about how you would make something in Godot really quickly in 2D. We create a node. A node is like a prefab control node. It's basically, it really is halfway between Flash and Unity. If you were in Flash, this is like a movie clip. Scenes hold nodes. So if you go scene, save scene as, we'll call it control, whatever. If I want to save the whole project, or I can make that the current scene later. Anyway, we will add a sprite. And then his little icon here that comes with it. Drag the icon up to the texture. Here's a little guy, little Godot face here. You can give a script to the sprite here, attach a new script, give it a name, and then, it has all this default stuff you can get rid of as well. It didn't take me long to warm up to GDScript. It's very much like Python if you've used that. I way prefer it to something like JavaScript. It's so easy to use. So if we go like, so we're in the sprite, we go self transform position x plus equals my speed, and we go up here, we go like var my speed equals 3.0. It's a float, auto declares that and stuff like that. What can't Okay. Oh yeah, it's already there. So self position. Okay. I've been working in 3D, so save that. And then we go run, select current scene. There we go. Whoa, look at this. Ship it. Ship it. But let me show you a few more complicated things from my own games. And this is Swords and Sandals Immortals, which I made in Godot 3.5 last year. And you've got everything from, it supports all the different sort of rendering, and you could, got full sort of custom support over your windows and your resolution and everything. Localization, I localized this to all sorts of different languages. I had a spreadsheet in Google Sheets, which I just imported, and then you can auto-load scenes, you can auto-load music or scripts and so on, so they basically appear as static. Basically, you can reference them from anywhere. I got plugins. I got an AdMob plugin. I have a sprite shader plugin, God Rays special effect, all sorts of things. If you wanted to, you could use C++ libraries to speed things up as well. The sky's the limit. It really is. All sorts of shader goodness. I'm using all sorts of shaders in this game. If we checked one of them out, holographic, where we go. They're shader files. They're just literally down here. You can see. You can copy and paste that from a Git repo, and it'll just kind of drag it to your thing. It'll all work. So if I had like what was this one? Oh yeah, these are I have a bunch of different shaders on different things as a color cycle shader. That was my palette cycler, and I could sort of change the parameters, change the gradient to like, green, yellow, whatever. That was just a cool little built-in, it was a shader that someone wrote for it, and I added it to the game. All sorts of really cool 2D effects. Godot's great for 2D. It runs really nicely. We've got our character, Gladiator. It's been ages since I've used this, actually. Where's the character skeleton? I can't even remember what the skeleton. You can animate things to your heart's content. If you wanted to go, let's go check out the animation window. If we wanted to go create a animation player, you could go new animation on the sprite, new anim, and then we go. This is kind of for those who like Flash. Check this out. So we can go. Let's check any of these product properties are animatable. Everything from the modulate color, create a new track, and then we go insert a key here, insert a key here, and then at this point change the value to green. This might not work because I've actually got a shader over the top of it, but if I actually got to go rid of the shader first, kill the shader. Let's say it was a white thing. There you go. Animate that over green over time. You could set that to loop. You could also change, you can call functions from the animation timeline. You can change the transform, the position, change the texture. Anything with that little key is animatable. And you can save that animation. There is support for tile maps, all sorts of things. We'll quickly jump over to Godot 4 for my current project, and I'll show you what that's all about too. Yeah, I'm using Godot 4.2, which is like a bleeding edge build of it right now for my new game, Gorgon Shield. These are 3D models brought in from Blender. You got particle effects, animated sprites, 2D decals in 3D, anything you want. This is all unlit right now, but I'll show you how it looks in the game. If we just run the game now, loading. It is impressive. I'm going to say, and it's as impressive as you want it to be. Like, people tell you, oh, you can't do 3D in Godot. Of course you can. I'm using 2.5D, which is half 2D, half 3D. There we go. It's a 3D model I brought in. 2D sprites over the top. It's a 3D layer of grass with the sprite there. Some 2D sprites here. Let's go straight to the tower. Ready. They are 2D animated sprites in a 3D world, no problem. 3D models there. And this is all nicely lit. There's proper shadows. You can see the shadows moving down there. And there's particles, everything you could want. I can change the camera to an orthographic camera if I want. I can put shaders over the top, old school look. It's all there, What more could you want? Now, I realize I'm just scratching the surface of what you can do in Godot. I just want to also maybe curb enthusiasm a little bit, because it's not going to be a one-to-one transition from Unity. You're going to find there are some things that you did in Unity easier, and some things don't make sense in Godot. It has its own quirks. Godot 4 crashes a lot compared to Godot 3.5. it's new. There are changes. But, like any new software, there's, it takes time to catch up. But Godot is moving so rapidly. You look at how many people have come on board in the last few weeks. I've never been happier making games than I are in Godot. And if I had switched to Godot years and years ago, from back in when I was still making games using Air, which is like an advanced version of Flash, oh my God, if I could have gone back and remade the Sword and Sandals games in Godot, like the Crusader and Sword and Sandals 2 Redux and everything, my God, what better games they would have been. So please don't fear. The sky might feel like it's falling. You can make the change. One thing I learned from my years in the wilderness, I went from Flash to HTML5. HTML5. There were dark times making games in JavaScript. To Unity for a few years, to Godot for a few years, is I've learned to be tech agnostic and platform agnostic. If a better game engine comes out than Godot for my purposes in the years to come, I'll switch to that. There might be a time when I want to use Unreal. I don't think I'll go back to Unity ever. I didn't enjoy it. And, I have more reason not to now. I don't want to feel like, justified and I made the right decision and so on, because you couldn't have seen this coming. No one could see this coming. But if you do want to make the decision to switch to Godot, there is help. The Godot Discord is full of useful and helpful people. It's a very welcoming community. Let's hope that stays the same with this new inflood of people. There will be people who want to believe in Godot and then find it's not all that they thought it was going to be. As I said, it does some things really well, other things not perfectly. Do some tutorials, find out for yourself, muck around a little bit, see if it's right for you. If you're a solo developer or a small team, I can't speak highly of it enough. I'm a Godot supporter. I donate to the new fund. They now raised nearly 50,000 euros a month to support the development of Godot for the primary contributors. And that is awesome. And you're going to see it coming along in leaps and bounds. So I financially support that. You don't have to. It's a free open source engine. You might support it by contributing in other ways, or just by spreading the word. I've become a bit of an unofficial evangelist for Godot. I do talk about it a lot. I'm a big fan. Anyway, this video has gone on for a long time. I should give a quick shout out to my Patreon supporters. These guys are the best. Cavity Number 1, Neighbor Jack, Dane Simoneau, Daniel Funches, Brandon K, Pipuch, Noah Gudajan, X-Up Omega, Jeff Rove Hex Duty, Hopeless. Just like Godot needs support, I need support too. And these guys have been my supporters for all the long years. So I thank you. And you know who else thanks you? That guy who's now in a mug. Hey, look, Gorgon, you're famous. You're famous. You can get Sword and Sandals merch. Go figure. My new game also is called Gorgon Shield. You can wishlist that on Steam if you like. I'd really appreciate a wishlist. I'm building that in Godot 4, and that's due out sometime next year. So thank you, everybody who has joined me. If you're new to the channel, I talk about Sword and Sandals. I talk about game dev. I talk about my new game, Gorgon Shield. I talk about everything, life, whatever it is. If you're returning, thanks for being part of the adventure. If you're a Unity refugee, don't lose hope. Things will work out. If you wanted to switch to Godot, this could be one of the best days of your life. You never know. Until next time, my friends, bye for now.